Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Michigan International Speedway. I'm already breaking equipment.
I'll do that in a couple hours.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Welcome into the media center this morning, Mr. AJ Allmendinger, driver of the number 47 Kroger Hungry Jack Crisco Chevrolet for JTG Doherty Racing. Has 4 top 15 finishes at Michigan, 15 starts. And is also obviously looking ahead to Sonoma in a few weeks. He's posted 2 top 10 finishes there and won the pole there last year. So good couple of weeks ahead of you, potentially.
We hope.
Obviously,
Yeah.
This is a nice stretch for you overall historically, but how are you feeling right now about the team and how you're driving?
Well, I'm driving quite perfect, actually. Yeah, so I don't know about the team, but my driving's been pretty spot on. All kidding aside, I think it's going fairly well. We've been bouncing, kind of right in that cutoff right now, bouncing back and forth between in the chase and out of the chase. Still a lot of weeks ahead of us, but just the way the team's progressing. We got pretty good speeds in the car, kind of everywhere we go. The places like Charlotte, Pocono last week, in Michigan are tracks that the last couple of years we've really struggled at, and I feel like although we not quite where we want to be, definitely have improved. So, everything kind of looking ahead, we're heading the right direction. It's just, right where we're at in points right now, it's, you have a bad week and it's a big hit, and you have a good week and you're back inside the chase. So it's the way it's going to be, and just try to go out every weekend and put our best foot forward and try to minimize our mistakes and get everything that we can, maximize the finishes. No matter whether we got a great race car or not a good race car, and just try to get everything we can out of it.
All right. Just shoot up your hand, get my attention. AJ's here, so always there's lots of lights and paparazzi, so it's hard for me to see a little bit. But we'll start over here with Mike, and then we'll go over to Lee, and then we'll come over to Bob.
AJ, Mike from the Detroit Free Press. You're on a smaller team. But you're a good driver. Where do you get what sort of gains do you look for against the bigger guys, and how do you get there, and can you get there on a team like yours?
Yeah, I think we can get there. It's a lot harder to get there for sure. We got to, with 50 people on our race team, we all got to kind of work together, which makes this race team a lot of fun. Tad and Jody really go out there and make this team a family. And this is my 3rd year with the team, and I really feel like as a team gelling together with the additions of Randall Burnett, which is my crew chief, and Ernie Cope, the competition director. Guys like Brian Burns and Tony Palmer, which had been the crew chief and lead engineer. They kind of stepped down and went to the engineering side of it. So everything's gelling well. You'd like everything overnight. You'd love to show up and just say, all right, our cars are the fastest cars there, and we go out there and have a chance to win every weekend. It's not that easy. But if you look at a team like the 78, it's taken a lot of years to get where they're at right now, for sure. This is what their 11th, 12th year maybe in NASCAR, and over the last 2 years is by far been their best season. So it definitely takes time, but they also show if you go out there and you work hard together, work in the right areas, you have the people that are smart enough to know which directions we have to head as NASCAR always keeps kind of developing and working on new packages like we have this weekend. We can get there, and it just takes a lot of hard work and a lot of sticking together. So I see that in our race team. We're not quite there yet, but we're definitely, as I said, heading in the right direction to where we can continually compete inside the top 15, then the top 10, then contend for wins any given racetrack.
Just one follow-up. Is your humor, the way that you approach life, does that help, when things are down?
Jen, does that help? That's why Jen just walks around just angry all the time. No, you know what? It's I try to have fun with it, but I'll be the first person to admit, if it's you'll see it on my face when it's not going well, or if I'm hard on myself. That's the biggest thing. I'm really hard on myself. I appreciate and understand how hard my guys work every weekend. and I really do appreciate. I try to show how much I appreciate it. I try to thank them every chance that I get. But I'm hard on myself. I always feel like even if we're not great that weekend, that somehow I can strap it to my back and go out there and get more out of it. It's harder to do it on a place like Michigan. You got to have a car that's set up right. That's why I enjoy the road courses, which has always been my background, because I feel like as a driver you can make just a little bit more of a difference. But in the end, I think and I hope that my guys know, even if I'm down, that I'm giving everything I got, and I'm down because I want to get more for them. So, it's just like everything else. It's ups and downs. I'm trying to learn how to be better about kind of staying middle of the road. I'm definitely not there yet, for sure, but that's the biggest thing. I just try to make sure my guys know how much I care and how much I want it for them and for us.
Go over to Candace, and then we will go to Mr. Pockruss.
Candace Spencer, motorsport.com. You can call me Candy, though.
Oh, my God.
Anyway, you're going to your...
Which is a different line than I usually use, because I say I don't care what you call me as long as you call me. So whatever. Candy, go ahead.
Thank you. You're going home next weekend when we get to Sonoma, and what would it mean to win in front of your home crowd, or what you consider your home track?
Yeah, I mean, it's... You try to go out there, and I try to have the mindset, it's just another weekend, but we know it's not. It's there's a lot of great things. It's my home race. It's a race that I grew up going to. I always enjoy. I think it's one of the best racetracks that we have in the U.S. when it comes to road course racing. It's a home race for our sponsor, Kingsford and Clorox. We got a lot of people that show up from the corporation that's based in Oakland, so only an hour or so down the road. We're going to have Ralph's on the car, which is a Kroger company, but it's a home company, a store that I've went to a lot growing up. So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that comes down to why it would be special to win. But in the end, it'd be special because it gets you into the chase. And you go out there and it makes the rest of the season just a little bit easier to prepare for the chase. But yeah, I mean, that's everybody's got that home race that stands out. We know the biggest races in our sport, the Daytona 500, Brickyard, Darlington. But, for me, Sonoma's is on top of the list because that's a race that I've loved. I have family and friends, and it would be a special moment to go out there and be able to share that and spend that in victory lane. But you can't get ahead of yourself. I mean, it's such a tough and difficult race. Although we've been fast there, if you look at my stats, they're not very good just because there's a lot of bad luck. There's a lot of ups and downs during the race, whether it comes with cautions, the way the tires are used there, the strategy. So it's a long ways to get there. But I know when we show up, we're going to have a good car and we're going to have a good shot to win it.
And as one of the 4 drivers who was crew chief last week, can you talk about what, pretty much what you guys went through? I mean, I know you have depth in your organization with several crew chiefs to fall back on, but can you kind of talk about, so people understand what it was like, how it was different not having Randall there?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say it's a difficult rule for sure. When you have a lug nut off a tire at the end of the race, and now your crew chief suspended and things like that. It's a difficult rule, but we've kind of put ourselves in that box, and it was a certain challenge. But Ernie Cope was, he was there as the crew chief, as our competition director, and Randall and I and Ernie and all of us have all worked together. So I wouldn't say it was that big of a challenge. It was just a different voice on the radio. We didn't really go about the weekend any different. I did think we learned some stuff. Ernie wanted to try a couple things, and I think it helped us. So in the end, I hope it makes us a little bit better. But overall, that's what's good about I'd say if this happened last year, we'd have been in real big trouble. But this year we got the depth, and we got all the people kind of working together. So it was just in the end, it was just a different voice on the radio.
Thanks, Lee. We'll go to Bob and then over to Brian in the middle.
Bob Pockruss, ESPN. Before all the road course races, you keep telling us, well, we're trying not to put too much pressure on ourselves. How successful are you at doing that? And then also the fact that you're kind of on the bubble versus maybe if you were like 22nd or 23rd in points, does that change as far as the pressure or how you would approach Sonoma?
I mean, obviously, Bob, you see I'm really successful at it. I'm pretty calm all the time. So, there's no pressure at all. It's not on my mind. I don't think about it. It's not going to bother me at all. I'm not thinking about it right now, actually. So, it's not going to bother my golf game in Pebble. You like that? I'm going to Pebble. Yeah, it's going to be good. So I like that. Yeah, like I said, I mean, we know we show up, we're going to have an opportunity to win the race. We go do the right things. The biggest differences this year is being kind of on the bubble. Hopefully we have a good weekend here, and we're in the cutoff line at the end of this weekend. But, the biggest deal is that it doesn't have to be an all or nothing scenario, which it has been the last 2 years. We go there and have a good weekend and finish second the last 2 years. It's great, but it doesn't do anything for us because we're so far out of the top 16 in points. It was win or bust at Sonoma or Watkins Glen, which no matter how you try to look at it, there's more pressure doing that. And I drove like it, knowing that I had to win the race to make any kind of difference for our season. So this year, it's, of course, the ultimate goal is still to win, but we go finish in the top 5. It's a good day. It's going to be good in points. It's going to help us out a lot. So that's kind of the mentality that we got to have. But, in the end, you see how Friday goes and see how Saturday goes, see what kind of race car you have and what kind of expectations you have for Sunday.
All right, we'll go over to Brian, and then we'll wrap it up with Chris Knight.
Brian Nelson, MRN. Dinger, so you kind of talked about it not affecting your golf game and your attitude about going into Sonoma, but with vacation the next week, I got to imagine you're just eagerly looking forward to having a break. With Sonoma looming, whether it's your desire to win at home or eyeing the chase berth, does Sonoma hanging out the following weekend intrude at all? Will that be on your mind? How do you deal with that while you're on vacation?
It'll always be on my mind. There's not a day that goes by that I don't think about the upcoming race and especially Sonoma. It'd be good on the off weekend, more for our guys to get away. They work so hard, and especially our crew guys that are here, because we don't have a lot of people. They have to be here all weekend and then go home on Monday, and they start tearing apart the car and start getting the next car ready and so on. So it's good for everybody to get a break and be able to spend some time with their family or just get away. For me, like I said, I'm going to go play some golf in Pebble and have a good time. But, like I said, there won't be a moment that I'm on the golf course that at least not on the back of my mind. It's the struggles to not make it on the front of my mind. And that's what I have to be better about, is doing the right things, whether it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, leading up, going into Sonoma, making sure I'm still taking care of myself and focused on the prize, which is going there and being the best that I can be when I get to the racetrack. But that's the biggest thing. It'll be there on my mind. It's just how good am I about not making it on the front of my mind until I pull into Sonoma on Friday. So I guess we'll wait and see about that. We'll see what the golf scores are. If it's mid-90s at Pebble, it's on the front of my mind. If I'm shooting low 80s, it's definitely in the back of my mind.
Mr. Knight right there.
Chris Knight, CatchFans.com. AJ, was announced this week that you're going to be one of the 4 drivers that RCR has added to their Xfinity Series lineup. What prompted that, and how much are you looking forward to the opportunity?
What prompted it was RC coming to me and asked me if I would want to do the road course race at Mid-Ohio on our off weekend. So, for sure, Mid-Ohio was a special victory that I had back in 2013 when I was with Team Penske, and I love the racetrack. I love the atmosphere there. There's always a big crowd, and more importantly, I know that I can get in that race car and have a chance to win, and that was the easiest decision on that, was the fact that, especially the 2-car, but all of RCR and their program, whether it's the Cup or the Xfinity Series, it's strong and they show up and they have a chance to win the race. So, any chance that you have to go win in a race in a NASCAR series, it makes it a lot easier to make the decision and say yes. So I look forward to it. I'm thankful that RC thought of me, and I think we're going to have Ream on the car for that race. So to have Ream to say that they want me in the race car is a big deal. So it'll be a lot of fun, and when we get to that point, I'll be definitely excited to get in that race car and go have a shot to win at Mid-Ohio again.
All right, thank you, AJ.
Cool.
Appreciate you
Thank
kicking
you,
us
guys.
off today. We'll continue today's media availability with Mr. Kurt Busch, who is the driver of the number 41 Haas Automation Monster Energy Chevrolet for Stewart Haas Racing. As you all know, he is the most recent NASCAR Sprint Cup Series driver to make the chase following his win earlier this week, which was on a Monday, of course. He likes those Mondays. Pocono Raceway. He has 3 wins, 5 top 5s, and top 10s, 10 top 10s at MIS. This is a great track for him. And as you recall, he is the defending champion of this race from last year. So give us a little bit of a sense of what it takes to win here at MIS. Obviously, you feel good about your win this past weekend, but talk a little bit about how you pivot from that moment to getting ready for this next one and the importance here at Michigan International Speedway for you.
Yeah, the biggest thing at Michigan is respecting the speed. It's a very fast racetrack, and the way that this weekend's rules are shaping up with lesser downforce, it's definitely a weekend where there's the question mark heading into it, and so we're going to make sure on the 41 car that we make sure to just stay focused on our plan and not try to let the excitement of winning here last year and winning last week's race jade the effort, because every week is a new challenge, and this week is a little bit different because it is the 2017 rules package, and we want to make sure that we stay on top of it and get the best effort that we possibly can. And so it's great to have Tony Gibson back and Johnny Klossmeyer in his role as the lead engineer. But to make a comment on last week's win and not having our main crew chief, it just shows the depth, and it shows the amount of quality effort that Stewart Haas Racing is putting forth in building cars, but also in building people. And that's what I was very proud of last week, to be able to win with an interim crew chief.
Congratulations again. Questions for Mr. Busch, please raise your hand. We'll start with David Scott here in the middle. We'll go to Reed Spencer, and then we'll go to Mr. Bob Pockras. David?
David Scott from the Charlotte Observer. Kurt, what are you anticipating from the aero package this weekend?
What I'm anticipating is hopefully a lot of slipping and sliding, loss of momentum, and the ability to stack up some guys and to get a big run from 3rd, 4th, 5th on back. That's what we hope we see, and that we don't have a leader that just gets out there and then we're not able to chase him down. And then the restarts are going to be that much more exciting because of the lack of downforce, and how stable will the cars be side by side. Nobody knows that yet.
Reed?
Reed Spencer with NASCAR Wire Service. Kurt, whether coincidence or not, you've had good success winning rain-delayed races. I recall you're winning here on a Tuesday. Is that just simply coincidence, or is there a mindset that you've got to develop to race the next day and keep it together and that sort of thing?
There are quite a few rain delay wins that I have, and with all the different teams I've been with Roush and Penske and Stewart Haas. I don't know. I was watching Rain Man about a couple months ago, and I should have practiced up on some of my quotes. But I'm glad that Dad lets me drive on Sundays. Yes, Dad lets me drive Sundays. So the rain is definitely something you have to be patient with. It's something you can't predict. We do have a lot stronger tools and radar and everything else. But whenever the green flag drops, no matter if it's a quick rain delay. And one of the biggest things we have now that we didn't have in years past is the Air Titans. And so they can quickly get a track in race conditions. And so you have to be ready at all moments whenever they're going to drop the green, and try to stay as level-headed and as focused as possible whenever we get to go, because you can't challenge Mother Nature. But it feels good to be able to be ready, to be prepared, and to have a team behind you to go out there and perform at any moment.
All right, we'll shift over to Mr. Pockras in the middle.
Bob Pockras, ESPN. Both you and Martin kind of got a win the week before the race that would have been your 1-year anniversary since your previous win. So I'm kind of curious, would it have mattered if you came in here this week with it being 1 year without a win? Does that mess with the driver's psyche? And then also, can you talk about having to kind of overcome frustrations of, Chicago last year, Bristol this year, Vegas this year, just races where maybe you felt like you definitely had definitely were in contention to win but didn't.
You know, it's great to have the win, but we want more wins. I mean, Gene Haas is a great owner to race for. He said congratulations, and in his normal sarcastic Gene Haas tone, he says, I want more. Where are more? Why do we only have one? But you have to stay patient. And if we didn't win, to answer your question last week, we've had such a strong season with consistency that there's no reason to panic or to stress any type of part of the team because we hadn't won. Honestly, we were second in points, and we had a 3-race cushion on 16th in points. And so that was a cushion that I was trying to tell the guys is important because if we have any kind of mechanical failure, we're not in any kind of jeopardy of not advancing to the chase. But we just need to continue to push and to do the smart things. And I'm glad that we won because there's a few new crew members on the 41 car that hadn't tasted victory lane, and they were getting a bit nervous or a bit agitated or maybe just a bit frazzled that they hadn't gotten that win yet. So it's more for the team. It puts the 41 car parallel with the 4 as far as results this year internally. And one thing that's very important to recognize, when I was at the shop on Tuesday, at SHR, we work on weekdays, and we don't normally race on weekdays. And so everybody was huddled up in the cafeteria watching the race on Monday as a unit, as a core group of people rooting for their car out there. And normally people are at home watching on Sundays with their families, and they're not there together as employees watching the race unfold. And that was a special moment to hear everybody say, the break room erupted, the cafeteria erupted with cheers, the guys in the transmission room, we didn't even know they had a laptop back there to watch the race on. They had their own celebration. So it's really neat to see the team enjoy it together on a Monday win.
All right, we'll go over to Lee Spencer, please.
Lee Spencer, motorsport.com. Talked to Gibson before I knew he was going to be suspended last week. Talked about you and kind of being under the radar, being second in points and not getting, really, I guess, the attention that you might think because it's all been dominated by Toyotas this year. He said one of the reasons he thinks that the 4 and 41 do so well is because the relationship that he has with Rodney. And I'm kind of, he said they're both old school crew chiefs. How have you seen the relationship since you've been there kind of, build between those two and, kind of blossom and made those two teams as a whole stronger?
Yeah, I would agree with Gibson 100%, and that Rodney Childers and Tony Gibson are more of an old school crew chief, and they're very good at assembling the crew members in the specific positions, such as their lead engineers are very strong-minded, very good at simulation, and they know exactly, Klausmeier called a perfect race last week. And then you see, Buga has moved on from a lead engineer into a crew chief role for Tony Stewart. It just shows the quality of people that they have working for them. And then there's the old school things that crew chiefs do to help push one another on, hey, I saw this in tech inspection, or hey, did you see the Toyotas do this, or hey, this Ford had that. And they're able to easily communicate that back to the engineering staff on just the visual things that they see. And it's neat, though, to have as many teams as possible pushing each other within the same organization. And that's what makes the Toyotas tough right now is, there's 4 of them that are definitely huddled down in there together. And we want to see Tony Stewart get stronger and Danica get stronger so that we can have our total of 4 strong horses every week. As far as being under the radar, it's the way it happens. It's something that I don't necessarily focus on. I know that we've had nice internal victories each and every week with certain things, and it might not be the glorified big moment win, but we now have that, and there's no ignoring the fact that the 41 car has been a very consistent car this year.
Over here to Mike.
Hey, Kurt, I know you follow Formula One. Gene's efforts this season, and is there any sharing of info and stuff with your team?
Yeah, I'm excited. And next week, we have an off week from our NASCAR circuit, and I'm headed over to the Middle East to watch our Formula One team at Baku. And I can't wait to hang out with Grosjean and Gutierrez and have the opportunity to sit next to a Formula One driver and see his tools that he uses, whether it's simulation, whether it's mapping. I'm hoping that I can discover things that I'll be able to ask Gene, hey, Gene, why don't we have that? Let's bring that back over to North Carolina side and use it for the Sprint Cup teams. And so, it's just an exciting time for Gene all the way around with the success that he had early on in F1. But now to settle in as the season's been going on and for us to deliver a win, it's really a neat time with Gene Haas. He's having a lot of fun in motorsports, and he's pushing harder and harder and harder. And I hope that there's something that I can bring back and cross-pollinate with our Sprint Cup team from the F1.
You drove an F1 car, correct?
I have not driven a Formula One car, but just an Indy car.
So you think you could have ever made that transition?
I'm sure I'd fit right in the seat, and I'd figure out where the start button is. I just don't know if they'll let me go out there on my own. But with Gene, you never know. And I would love the opportunity to have a test session or a fun day with a Formula One car. Those cars and the engineering and the amount of technology is something so exciting as a driver. You definitely want to get your hands on it.
All right, Kurt, thank you very much for coming in today. Good luck this weekend.
Thank you.
All right, we'll wrap up this morning's media availabilities with Mr. Martin Truex Jr., driver of the number 78 Furniture Row Chevrolet for Furniture Row Racing. He has 5 top 5 finishes and 7 top 10s here, and finished 3rd in both Michigan races last season. Obviously a popular win in the NASCAR Nation 2 weeks ago at the Coca-Cola 600. And for the audience today, I know you were one of the drivers who was part of the Goodyear tire test here at Michigan, so you will have tested the package and some of the things that we're going to be trying to do. So can you give us a little bit of a sense of what you took away from that test? What are the rules, and how do you think it'll impact the racing this weekend?
Yeah, sure. It was a short test because of rain, but we did learn a few things, and I think the biggest thing was just off throttle time was more, middle of the corner speed was slower, and end of the straightaway speed was a little faster. So really just more in the same direction we went from last year's package to what we're racing now, and definitely another step in a direction we're all looking for. So should be a lot of fun. I think everybody's really excited and optimistic about the weekend, just to see what it's all about and learn about the new package and try to figure it out. So hopefully the racing will be what we hope, and should be a lot of fun.
Well, clearly the package that we're racing right now has been good for you and your team. Tell us a little bit about why that is. Is it you as a driver, you as a team, but clearly Furniture Row and what Martin Truex has done this year with this package has been a success and obviously led to the win.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoy driving the cars more this year with them, just being on top of the track more, just sliding around more. Guys are, we're having to work a little bit harder in the car, and that's been a lot of fun. So, been able to race at most tracks a little bit easier behind cars, get up closer to guys, and this year is the first time in a few years we've been able to kind of get up behind somebody, get close enough to make them loose like you used to do in the old days. So it's been good. I think the racing's been great. We obviously still have some challenges at certain tracks, and you're always going to have that just based on tracks all being different. But pleased with what we've seen so far this year, I feel like, and hopefully, again, like I said, this will be another step in that direction, and hopefully be a lot of fun for everyone.
All right, we'll take questions from the media now. We'll start over here with Mike and next to him, and then we'll go over to Bob after that.
Martin, do you think if you were ever to drive for a bigger team again, you'd be any different type of guy, any different type of driver, any different type of approach to your racing?
I don't know. That's a tough question. I don't know that a big team is really any different than the team I'm racing with now. I love the team that I'm racing with now. I really don't want to think about driving for anybody else. So let's just hope that we don't have to do that.
George Poley, the Macomb Daily. Martin, Sean Robb's a former Michigander, part of your crew at the shop. Could you just comment on how the folks at Toyota, with Sean and some of those guys, have been able to make what looks from the outside anyway like like a pretty smooth transition?
It's been a really smooth transition. I think smoother than any of us thought. Barney had planned on running the first 10 or so races and just being like so and trying to figure things out. Maybe stumble a little bit until we kind of got everything ironed out. We got the cars built up and kind of got things figured out. But really, we came out of the box strong at Daytona. There's a lot of people to credit for that. Obviously, everybody at Toyota, Dave Wilson, Andy Graves. All those folks, everybody at TRD, and especially JGR, they're obviously a big part of what we're doing. The partnership has worked really well. All their crew chiefs, engineers, really just everyone from coach to the bottom. Really just welcomed in our team, said, here's how we're going to do things. We're going to, open book. We're going to share everything. And that's been a big part of the reason we got off the ground so quick. So it's been... We've just seemed to have good chemistry from both sides, from crew chief, our owner Barney and Joe get along really well. Cole's done a great job, I think, and even all the other drivers have been great to work with for me. So it's been a lot of fun so far to learn all that stuff, how they do things. We've learned a lot from them, and hopefully, as we go down the road here, they're going to learn something from us. So it's been good, and for like the last month and a half or so, we've brought quite a bit to the table, so that's good. Proud of my team for that, and it's just something that's been working really well so far.
Go to Bob, then over here in the middle.
Bob Pockris, ESPN. If you hadn't won at Charlotte, you have gone into Pocono with like a 1 year not having won. Does that play in the driver's psyche, like when you hit kind of like a mark like that? And then also, did you ever worry about your crew, especially after Daytona, just being overly frustrated about not winning?
I actually never thought about how long it had been. We'd been so close and things are going, have obviously been going well for us. So you just kind of try to focus on that. I think all of us we weren't frustrated at all. We felt like it was kind of weird that it was almost a replay of last year. How we lead all those races in a row and kind of crazy things would happen. But, I think, again, a lot like last year, we looked at all these things. We looked at leading laps and running up front and doing the things we were doing as a positive, not a negative. Yes, we want to win. Yes, we were, somewhat frustrated that we hadn't yet. But I don't think we let it, change our approach or get us frustrated enough that we forgot what we were doing or made mistakes. So glad we were able to pull through in convincing fashion, obviously, and hopefully we can do it again soon.
All right, over to Woody.
Woody came with MRN. Martin, with Father's Day coming up next weekend, I was just curious if you'd tell us a little bit about what a help it was, your dad's experience helping you get to where you are now.
Well, I wouldn't be here without my dad. That's, it's plain and simple. He was, he grew up racing. He was my hero. That's the only reason I knew anything about it, So I can remember going to the track as a young kid, as young as I can remember, probably 4 or 5 years old, to watch him and to learn from him, and just hanging around the garage and the shops that he had over the years, and going to the racetrack. That's what got me into it. And then, I can remember as a young kid thinking I'm going to drive race cars someday, and that was the only thing I ever cared about. That was the only thing I wanted to do. So started racing because of him. Obviously, he owned all the cars I drove up until I got hired to drive for Chance 2 back in 03. And so without him, I would have never got into racing, and I certainly would have never made it to the level I'm at today. So I owe a lot to him, and have a lot of great memories growing up racing with Dad.
All right, that wraps up today. Thank you, Martin. I appreciate it.
Yep, thanks, guys. Have a good weekend.